The space station hung in orbit like a metal crown above the homeworld of the Therian Empire. Ambassador Chen Wei pressed her hand against the cold window of the UNSS Envoy and watched the planet below. Swirls of purple and green covered the surface. This was the center of galactic power, and humanity was about to learn what that really meant. Chen turned away from the window. Her team sat behind her in the small diplomatic vessel. There were only 5 humans on this ship, 5 humans facing a galaxy of trillions. Lieutenant Marcus Webb checked his tablet for the 100th time. Dr. Sarah Kim reviewed her notes about alien culture. The 2 security officers, Jackson and Torres, stood by the door with straight backs and careful eyes. 15 years. That was how long humanity had known about alien life. 15 years since the Zexian merchant ship had appeared near Mars and changed everything. Humanity had rushed to learn, to trade, to join this vast civilization among the stars. Chen had been there from the beginning. She remembered the excitement. She remembered the hope. Now she wondered if that hope had been foolish. The communication panel beeped. A voice spoke in perfect English, translated by alien machines. It was a Therian official. His voice sounded bored. Your docking clearance is approved. Proceed to Bay 17. The council will see you in 1 hour. Chen nodded even though the alien could not see her. Thank you. We are honored to appear before the council. The line went dead. Webb looked up from his tablet. He was young, only 30, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. His face showed worry. Ambassador, I have been reading the historical records. Every species that was called before the council like this received the same treatment. All 47 of them. Chen sat down in her chair. She knew what he meant. She had read the same records. 47 species conquered, 47 civilizations forced to surrender their freedom. The Therian Empire did not negotiate. They did not compromise. They simply took what they wanted. The envoy docked with a soft thud. Chen and her team walked through corridors that stretched for miles. The station was enormous, built to show power and wealth. Aliens of dozens of species moved through the halls. Most wore the gray uniforms of servants. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some looked almost human except for their eyes or their skin color. They all stepped aside when Chen and her team approached. They all looked away. Chen understood. These were conquered peoples. They knew what happened to species who came to the council chamber. The council chamber was a vast room with a dome ceiling that showed the stars. The council members sat on raised platforms in a half circle. There were 12 of them, representing the 3 great powers of the galaxy. The Catharian representatives were tall and covered in dark red scales. Their eyes were yellow and cold. They sat highest of all, because the Therian Empire was the strongest military power. They had ruled for 3,000 years. The Zexian consortium representatives looked like giant insects with too many arms. They controlled most of the trade routes. They had been merchants for 5,000 years and cared only about profit. The Vrin collective representatives appeared almost human, but their skin was pale blue and their eyes were too large. They were telepaths who could read surface thoughts. They claimed to be philosophers and teachers. They had guided the galaxy for 7,000 years or so, they said. Grand Chancellor Corvin, leader of the Catharian delegation, looked down at Chen and her team. His voice was deep and hard. Ambassador Chen Wei of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council to receive judgment on behalf of your species. Chen stepped forward. Her heart beat fast, but her voice stayed calm. We are honored to appear before the Council. We hope to build friendship between Earth and the galactic community. Corvin did not smile. Friendship is not what you will find here today. The Council has studied humanity for 15 years. We have watched your expansion. We have analyzed your technology. We have observed your behavior. He paused. The chamber was completely silent. Chen could hear her own breathing. You are dangerous, Corvin continued. Your species advances too quickly. You ask too many questions. You do not respect the natural order of the galaxy. You are like children playing with weapons you do not understand. Chen felt anger rise in her chest but pushed it down. With respect, Chancellor, humanity has followed all galactic laws. We have not attacked any species. We have traded fairly. We have sought only knowledge and peaceful contact. One of the Zexian representatives clicked its mandibles together. That is precisely the problem. You learn too quickly. You adapt too fast. In 15 years you have matched technology that took other species centuries to develop. This is unnatural. This is threatening. A Vrin representative spoke next. Her voice was soft but cold. We have touched your minds, humans. We have felt your thoughts. You are aggressive. You are territorial. You wage war among yourselves even now. What will you do when you have the power to threaten others? Chen looked at each council member in turn. Yes, humanity has known war. We have made terrible mistakes. But we have also learned from them. We created a united world government. We ended our conflicts. We chose peace over destruction. Does that not show growth? Does that not show wisdom? Corvin waved his clawed hand as if brushing away an insect. Words are easy. Actions matter. And the council has decided on action. He stood up. His massive form cast a shadow over Chen and her team. Behind him, a hologram appeared in the air. It showed Earth, blue and beautiful. Then it showed numbers, resources, population, military assets. Everything about humanity laid bare. The council hereby places Earth under protective custody of the Catharian Empire, Corvin announced. Effective immediately, your planet will surrender sovereignty. Your government will dissolve. Your military will disarm. 60% of your industrial production will be transferred to Catharian control. Your people will be educated in proper behavior. In time, if you prove worthy, you may be granted limited self-government. Chen felt the blood drain from her face. You are demanding that we become slaves. We are demanding that you accept reality, Corvin said. The galaxy has an order. The strong rule. The weak obey. This is how it has always been. This is how it will always be. Your species is young and weak. We are old and strong. You will accept this, or you will be made to accept it. Dr. Kim spoke up for the first time. Her voice shook with anger. You claim to be civilized. You claim to be advanced. But you are just bullies. You wait until species are vulnerable and then you crush them. The Zexian representative clicked again. Emotional response. Typical of your species. This is why you need guidance. Chen raised her hand to silence Dr. Kim. She took a deep breath. Chancellor Corvin, members of the council, this decision affects billions of human lives. I request time to bring this proposal to my government. Let us have 30 days to consider and respond. Corvin sat back down. He looked amused. 30 days, very well. We are not unreasonable. Take your time. Discuss with your leaders. But understand this clearly. The decision is already made. You may accept peacefully or you may resist. The result will be the same. We have done this 47 times before. We know how it ends. The council session ended. Chen and her team were escorted back to their ship. None of them spoke until the doors sealed behind them. Then Webb exploded. They waited until we were just strong enough to be useful but not strong enough to fight back. This was planned. They have been watching us for years, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Chen nodded. She had reached the same conclusion. The Catharians were predators. They let their prey grow fat before the kill. That evening, as the envoy prepared to depart, Chen received an unexpected visitor. A Vrin female appeared at the airlock alone. She wore simple clothes, not the formal robes of a council member. Her large eyes looked worried. My name is Shrenka. I am a teacher among my people. May I speak with you privately? Chen led her to a small conference room. Shrenka sat down and folded her hands. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. I should not be here. If the Catharians knew I was speaking to you, I would be punished. But I cannot stay silent. I have watched this happen too many times. Chen leaned forward. What do you want to tell me? Shrenka looked toward the door as if checking for listeners. The council's offer is a lie.
They have no intention of letting you respond peacefully.
In 10 days, they will claim you are building weapons. They will say you are planning to attack. They will use this as an excuse to invade Earth immediately. Chen felt cold. How do you know this? Because it is what they always do. They did it to my people 4,000 years ago. They have done it to every species that showed promise. The 30 days is a test. They want to see how you prepare. They want to measure your military strength so they know exactly how hard to strike. Why are you telling me this? Chen asked. Why risk yourself for humanity? Shrenka stood up. Her eyes were wet with tears. Because I am tired of watching. Because the Vrin Collective claims to value wisdom, but we do nothing when evil happens before our eyes. Because maybe, just maybe, humanity will be different. Maybe you will not bow. She walked to the door, then paused. There's something else you should know. The Catharian military has never been truly tested. They have fought only weaker species. They do not know what it means to face an equal. They are arrogant. Use that, then she was gone. Chen sat alone in the conference room for a long time. She thought about Shrenka's words. She thought about the 47 species that had been conquered. She thought about Earth, beautiful and vulnerable. Finally, she activated her secure communication system. The message would take hours to reach Earth, but it had to be sent. She recorded carefully, choosing each word. This is Ambassador Chen Wei. I am sending this message with highest priority. The Council has issued an ultimatum. They demand our complete surrender. They call us dangerous children who need to be controlled. They say we advance too quickly, that we are a threat to galactic order. She paused, then continued with steel in her voice. They have no idea what we have been building. They think we are weak because we are young. They think we are afraid because we seek peace. They are wrong. I recommend we show them exactly how dangerous children can be. Chen ended the recording and sent it into the dark. The envoy left the station and began the long journey home. Behind them, the Catharian Empire prepared for another easy conquest. They had done this 47 times. They were confident. They were powerful. They were sure. They did not know that humanity had learned a bitter lesson from history. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. When someone threatens your home, prepare for war. And when someone calls you dangerous, prove them right. The 30-day countdown had begun. But the real game had started 15 years ago, from the moment humanity first looked at the stars and understood they were not alone. From the moment they realized that out there in the vast dark there might be friends, there might be teachers, and there might be enemies. Humanity had prepared for all three. The emergency session of the United Earth Government began at midnight. Every major leader on the planet watched through secure channels. The chamber in Geneva was full of worried faces. Outside, the world slept, not knowing that in this room the future of humanity was being decided. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the center podium. Her face was tired from the long journey back from Catharian space, but her voice was strong. She did not hide the truth. She told them everything. The ultimatum, the demand for surrender, the threat of invasion. She told them about Shrenka's warning that the Catharians would not wait 30 days. When she finished, the chamber was silent. Then Secretary General Martinez spoke. Her voice was heavy with sadness. 15 years ago, we celebrated first contact. We thought we were joining a community of peaceful civilizations. We were naive. Premier Zhang from East Asia spoke next. We were not completely naive. Some of us suspected this day might come. Some of us prepared. All eyes turned to Fleet Admiral Sarah Okonkwo. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had served in 3 wars before humanity reached for the stars. She knew what real combat meant. She stood up slowly. Members of the Council, I need to show you something that has been classified at the highest level. For 12 years, we have been building a weapon. We called it the Titan Initiative. She activated a hologram. In the air above the podium, a massive ship appeared. It was 8 kilometers long, built like a sword. The design was nothing like the smooth curves of alien ships. It was angular, aggressive, covered in weapons and armor. It looked exactly like what it was. A warship built by humans who remembered their bloody history. Secretary General Martinez stared at the hologram. Admiral, what am I looking at? Admiral Okonkwo smiled. It was not a happy smile. That is the UNSS Titan, our first and only Titan-class warship. We began construction in the Kuiper Belt 1 year after first contact. We used every trick we learned from the aliens, but we did not copy their mistakes. She zoomed in on different parts of the ship. When we studied alien warfare, we found something interesting. They focus on energy weapons and shields. They abandoned kinetic weapons centuries ago because they thought them primitive. They stopped using nuclear weapons because they considered them crude. They rely on AI-controlled targeting that can be jammed. They fight like people who have forgotten what war really means. The hologram showed different weapon systems. So we built something different. The Titan has railguns that fire tungsten rods at a fraction of light speed. Their shields are not designed to stop solid projectiles. We have nuclear missiles with AI guidance systems that adapt in real time. We have cyber warfare capabilities that can hack their communications. We have drone swarms that can overwhelm their defenses. Defense Minister Kowalski from Europa leaned forward. His face showed surprise and concern. You built a warship in secret for 12 years. Who authorized this? Who funded it? A quiet voice spoke from the back of the chamber. I did, everyone turned. An old man walked forward slowly. He was Marcus Wells, the first Secretary General after the formation of the United Earth Government. He had stepped down 5 years ago and was supposed to be retired. But his eyes were still sharp. I authorized it using emergency powers in the first year of First Contact. I funded it using black budget resources that nobody questioned because everyone was too excited about meeting aliens. I did it because I studied history. And history taught me that when you meet a stronger power, you better have something they did not expect. He looked around the chamber. I knew some of you would be angry. I knew some of you would call me paranoid. But I would rather be called paranoid than watch humanity enslaved because we were too trusting. I saw what the Therians did to other species. I read their history. I knew our turn would come. Secretary General Martinez looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Thank you, Marcus. You may have saved us all. Admiral Okonkwo continued her presentation. The Titan is ready for deployment. It has a crew of 3,000. Captain James Rivera is in command. He is our best officer. The ship has been tested in secret for 6 months. All systems are operational. Chen spoke up from her seat. Admiral, one ship against an entire empire. Can it really make a difference? Admiral Okonkwo looked at the hologram of the Titan. That depends on what we want to achieve. We cannot conquer the Therian Empire, but we can make them respect us. We can show them that humanity is not easy prey. We can prove that attacking Earth will cost them dearly. She paused and looked around the room. The galaxy respects only one thing, power. We tried diplomacy. We tried friendship. We tried learning and cooperation. The Therians answered with an ultimatum. So now we speak a language they understand. Minister of Science, Dr. Patel, raised his hand. He was a small man with kind eyes. What are you proposing, Admiral? Admiral Okonkwo turned off the hologram. We have 3 options. First, we surrender. We give the Therians what they want. Humanity becomes another conquered species. We survive, but we are slaves. Second, we negotiate. We try to find a compromise. Offer them some resources, some control, but keep our sovereignty. Third, we fight. We send the Titan to the Council with Ambassador Chen. We show them what we can do. The debate lasted for hours. Some argued for surrender. They said humanity was too young to fight an ancient empire. Others argued for negotiation. They said there must be a middle path. But many argued for resistance. They said freedom was worth any price. Chen listened to all of them. Then she asked for permission to speak again. The Secretary General nodded. I met a Vryn named Shrenka. She risked her life to warn me about the Tharian plan. She told me her people surrendered 4,000 years ago. She said they thought they were being smart. They thought they were choosing survival. But now she watches the Council crush species after species and can do nothing. She is a slave in everything but name. She told me something important. She said maybe humanity would be different. Maybe we would not bow. Chen looked around the chamber. I think she was right. We are different. Humans have fought for freedom since the beginning of history. We have died for it. We have suffered for it. We have never accepted tyranny without resistance. Why should we start now? The vote was taken. The result was overwhelming. Humanity would not surrender. Humanity would not bow. The Titan would deploy with Ambassador Chen aboard. They would return to the Council and deliver Earth's response. 3 days later, Chen stood in the docking bay of Mars Fleet Command. The Titan floated in space beyond the window. It was even more impressive in reality than in the hologram. The ship was covered in dark armor. Weapon ports lined every surface. It looked dangerous. It looked deadly. It looked human. Captain James Rivera walked up beside her. He was a man in his 40s with calm eyes and a quiet voice. Chen had read his file. He had commanded patrol ships on the Mars frontier for 10 years. He was known for being careful, smart, and brave. Ambassador, welcome aboard. Are you ready for this? Chen smiled. She was scared, but she did not show it. Ready as I will ever be, Captain. How about you? This is your first real combat. Rivera looked at his ship. First and hopefully last. But if we have to fight, we will fight well. My crew has trained for this. We know what we are doing. They boarded the Titan together. The inside of the ship was all business. No decorations. No comfortable spaces. Just corridors lined with equipment and crew members who moved with purpose. Chen was given quarters near the bridge. They were small and simple. A bed, a desk, a window showing space. That night, before the Titan departed, Admiral Okonkwo sent a final message to Captain Rivera. Chen was on the bridge when it came through. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. Captain Rivera, you are about to make history. Whatever happens, remember that you carry the hopes of 8 billion people. You carry our defiance against tyranny. You carry our message to the galaxy. We are humanity. We bow to no one. Rivera stood at attention. Understood, Admiral. We will make you proud, the Admiral nodded. One more thing. There are rumors in the intelligence community. Whispers from our contacts among minor species. They are watching what happens next very carefully. 47 species have been conquered by the Catharians. All of them are waiting to see if humanity will be number 48. If we stand, if we fight, we may inspire others to do the same. This is bigger than just Earth now. The screen went dark. Rivera turned to his crew. All stations report ready status. One by one, the reports came in. Weapons ready. Shields ready. Engines ready. Navigation ready. All 3,000 crew members were at their posts. The Titan was ready for war. Chen watched from her seat near the captain's chair. She thought about the last 15 years. The excitement of first contact. The wonder of learning about alien cultures. The hope that humanity had found friends among the stars. All of it had led to this moment. A human warship preparing to face an empire that had ruled for 3,000 years. The Titan's engines came to life with a deep rumble. The ship began to move. Mars fell away behind them. The solar system that had been humanity's entire world for all of history became just another point of light. They were heading into Catharian space, into the heart of enemy territory. The journey would take 3 weeks at faster than light speeds. 3 weeks to prepare, 3 weeks to train, 3 weeks to wonder if they were heroes or fools. Chen spent the time learning about the ship and its capabilities. She attended briefings. She talked to crew members. She learned that every person aboard the Titan had volunteered. They all knew this might be a one-way trip. They came anyway. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park ran the weapons division. She was young, barely 30, but brilliant. She showed Chen the railgun systems. These fire solid projectiles at 0.03% of light speed. A single hit can punch through standard alien shields. We can fire 3 rounds per second from each of our 40 railguns. Chen did the math in her head. That is 480 projectiles every second. Park grinned. And that is just the railguns. We also have missiles, lasers for point defense, and the drone swarms. The Catharians are used to fighting ships that try to outshield each other. We are going to hit them with metal and explosives. Old school warfare. Commander John Hayes ran the cyber warfare division. He was a quiet man who spoke in technical terms, but Chen understood the basics. His team could hack alien computer systems. They could jam communications. They could turn enemy ships against each other. It was warfare in a dimension the Catharians barely understood. Dr. Lisa Chen, no relation to the ambassador, ran the medical bay. She was prepared for casualties. She knew they were likely, but she believed in what they were doing. Someone has to stand up to bullies. Might as well be us. On the 15th day of the journey, Chen was in her quarters when Captain Rivera called her to his office. He had a serious expression. We just received intelligence from Earth. The Catharian fleet is gathering. They are preparing to move against us earlier than expected. Just as your Vrin contact warned, we will arrive at the Council Station in 1 week. They will have at least 50 warships waiting. Chen felt her stomach tighten. 50 ships against 1. What are our chances? Rivera leaned back in his chair. In a straight fight, we would lose. But we are not planning a straight fight. We have advantages. Surprise. Technology they have not seen before. Tactics they are not prepared for. And something else. Desperation. They are fighting because they want to conquer. We are fighting because we have no choice. That makes us more dangerous. The final week passed slowly. Chen watched the crew prepare. They ran drills. They checked weapons. They wrote messages to loved ones back home just in case. The Titan moved through space like a dark arrow aimed at the heart of the enemy. On the last night before arrival, Chen could not sleep. She went to the observation deck. A few other crew members were there looking out at the stars. One of them was a young ensign named Tom Miller. He was only 22. He noticed Chen and nodded respectfully. "Are you scared, Ambassador?" Chen smiled sadly, terrified. You? Miller nodded. Yeah, but also excited. My grandfather fought in the water wars. He always told me that freedom is not free. Someone has to pay the price. I guess it is our turn now. Chen looked at the young man. She thought about all the generations before them, all the people who fought for freedom on Earth. Now humanity was taking that fight to the stars. We will make them proud. The next morning, the Titan dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Ahead of them, visible on the main screen, was the council station. It hung in space like a jewel. Around it, arranged in battle formation, were the ships of the Catharian fleet, 50 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had built before the Titan, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a city. Captain Rivera stood on the bridge. His voice was calm. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. Prepare for combat. And remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for every species that ever dreamed of freedom. The crew moved to their positions. Weapons powered up. Shields activated. The Titan came alive with energy and purpose. Chen took her seat and strapped in. She thought about Earth. 8 billion people going about their lives not knowing that their fate was about to be decided in this small piece of space. A message came through from the Catharian fleet. It was Grand Admiral Corvin himself. His voice dripped with contempt. So the children bring a toy to show the council. How amusing. Power down your ship and prepare to be boarded. Your resistance is futile, Captain Rivera smiled. It was not a nice smile. He looked at Chen. Ambassador, would you like to respond? Chen stood up and walked to the communication station. She thought about her journey. From the council chamber where they threatened her, to Earth where her people chose to fight, and now back here, back to face the bullies. She opened a channel that would broadcast to every ship in the system. Grand Admiral Corvin, members of the council, we have returned with Earth's response to your ultimatum. That response is no. We do not accept your terms. We do not recognize your authority. We will not surrender. We will not bow. She paused, then continued with fire in her voice. You called us dangerous children. You were right. We are dangerous. We are humanity, and we are done being afraid. The Catharian fleet hung in space like predators waiting to strike. Grand Admiral Corvin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Fist. Around him, his officers monitored their screens with confident faces. They had done this many times before. 47 species had stood in this same position. 47 species had surrendered or been destroyed. Corvin looked at the human ship on his display. The Titan appeared large but primitive. Its angular design was crude compared to the smooth elegance of Catharian vessels. It was covered in what looked like armor plates. How quaint. The humans still built ships as if they needed to protect against physical impacts. Tactical Officer Vren approached his command chair. His scales were dark green, marking him as a veteran of many battles. Admiral, the human ship is not powering down. Their shields are active. They appear to be charging weapons. Corvin waved a clawed hand dismissively. They want to make a show of strength before surrendering. It is what young species always do. They bark like small animals hoping to scare larger predators. Give them 5 minutes to come to their senses. Then we will show them what real power looks like. On the Titan's bridge, Captain Rivera watched the Catharian fleet. 50 ships, each one bristling with weapons. His tactical display showed their positions, their shield strength, their weapon ranges. The computer had calculated engagement scenarios. The results were not encouraging. In a direct battle, the Titan would be overwhelmed. But Rivera had not trained for direct battles. He had studied human military history. He knew about Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans held off an army. He knew about Agincourt, where English archers defeated French knights. He knew about countless battles where smaller forces used intelligence, terrain, and surprise to overcome superior numbers. Space was just another battlefield, and the Titan had advantages the Catharians did not know about. Lieutenant Commander Park stood at her weapons station. Captain, all systems are optimal. Railguns charged. Missiles loaded. Drone bays ready. Just give the word, Rivera nodded. He turned to Commander Hayes at the cyber warfare station. How are our electronic countermeasures? Hayes smiled. It was the smile of a man who held a secret weapon. We have mapped their communication networks. Their encryption is sophisticated but predictable. They use the same protocols they have used for centuries. We can disrupt it whenever you are ready, Captain. The council station watched both fleets with growing concern. Inside the great chamber, the council members gathered around holographic displays. They saw the Catharian fleet in attack formation. They saw the single human ship facing them. The Zexian representatives clicked nervously. The Vryn representatives exchanged worried glances. But the Catharian representatives looked pleased. One Catharian council member, First Minister Draka, spoke to his colleagues. "This will be over quickly. Admiral Corvin will disable their ship. The humans will beg for mercy. We will be generous in victory. They will serve us well once properly educated." Shrenka stood in the shadows of the observation gallery. She was not supposed to be there. Council sessions during military actions were classified. But she had found a way in, using old access codes that no one had bothered to change. She watched the displays with her heart racing. She remembered her warning to Ambassador Chen. She remembered how the Catharians had crushed her own people. She prayed that humanity would be different. She prayed that someone finally would make the Catharians pay for their arrogance. The 5 minutes passed. Corvin leaned forward in his chair. "Open a channel to the human ship." His image appeared on the Titan's main screen. Ambassador Chen and Captain Rivera stood side by side facing him. Corvin's yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "This is your final warning. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with the full force of the Imperial fleet. You cannot win. Your defiance is pointless. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Chen stepped forward. Her voice was steady. "Grand Admiral Corvin, you misunderstand the situation. We did not come here to surrender. We came here to deliver a message." Corvin bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. What message can a single ship deliver to an empire? Captain Rivera spoke for the first time. "The message is simple. Leave Earth alone, or learn what it means to fight humanity." For a moment, Corvin looked genuinely amused. Then his expression hardened. "Brave words from a captain who will be dead in minutes. All ships weapons free. Disable that vessel. I want prisoners, not corpses. The humans need to learn their place." The channel closed. Rivera turned to his crew. "Here we go. All stations engage defensive pattern Alpha. Show them why you do not threaten humanity." The Catharian fleet moved forward like a wall of metal and death. Their formation was standard. Dreadnoughts in front with heavy shields to absorb enemy fire. Cruisers behind providing covering fire. Destroyers on the flanks to prevent escape. It was a formation they had used for 3,000 years. It had never failed. The lead dreadnought, the Crimson Blade, locked weapons on the Titan. Its captain, a veteran named Krax, had fought in 20 campaigns. He had destroyed 6 rebel fleets. He spoke calmly to his crew. "Target their engines first. Disable but do not destroy. The Admiral wants prisoners. Fire on my mark." 3-2-1 mark blue particle beams lanced through space. They hit the Titan's shields and splashed harmlessly across the energy barrier. Krax frowned. The human shields were stronger than expected. Fire again. Full power. More beams struck the Titan. The shields flickered but held. On the Titan's bridge, Rivera watched the display calmly. "Our shields are holding at 80%. They are using standard particle weapons. Nothing we cannot handle. Commander Park, return fire. Show them something new." Park's fingers danced across her controls. Railgun batteries 1 through 10 fire. The Titan shuddered as 10 railguns fired simultaneously. Tungsten rods, each weighing a ton, accelerated to 30,000 kilometers per second. They crossed the distance to the Crimson Blade in less than a second. The Catharian shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, offered almost no resistance to solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. 10 rods punched through the dreadnought's shields and armor like paper. They tore through decks, shredding machinery and structure. The Crimson Blade systems screamed warnings. Krax stared at his displays in shock. What was that? How did they penetrate our shields? His tactical officer's voice was panicked. "Sir, they are using kinetic weapons, solid projectiles. Our shields are not calibrated to stop them. We need to reconfigure." Krax opened a channel to Admiral Corvin. "Admiral, the humans are using primitive kinetic weapons. Our shields cannot stop them effectively. We need new tactics." Corvin's face appeared on the screen. He no longer looked amused. "Primitive? Those weapons just crippled our lead dreadnought. All ships spread out. Do not present mass targets. Activate emergency shield reconfiguration. And destroy that human ship. Now." The Catharian fleet began to adjust its formation. But they were not used to fighting an enemy that could punch through their defenses so easily. 3 more ships moved forward, firing as they came. Their particle beams hit the Titan again and again. The human shields flickered and weakened under the concentrated fire. Rivera watched his shield display drop from 80% to 60% to 40%. Our shields cannot take much more of this. Commander Hayes, it is time. Jam their communications and targeting systems. Hayes grinned and activated his systems. Invisible signals reached out from the Titan, infiltrating the Therian fleet's networks. They were using old protocols unchanged for centuries. Hayes found the vulnerabilities in seconds. He sent viruses and jamming signals racing through their systems. Across the Therian fleet, screens went dark. Communication channels filled with static. Targeting computers lost their locks. On the Imperial Fist, Corvin watched in disbelief as his tactical display flickered and died. What is happening? Restore communications immediately. His communication officer worked frantically at his console. Sir, we are under cyber attack. The humans have infiltrated our systems. They are using techniques we have never seen. Our firewalls cannot stop them. Rivera did not waste the opportunity. Commander Park, deploy the drones. Let them see what a swarm looks like. Bays opened along the Titan's hull. Thousands of small drones poured out like angry insects. Each one was no larger than a refrigerator, but each one carried missiles, lasers, and jamming equipment. They spread out in a cloud, moving in coordinated patterns that confused Therian sensors. The drones attacked in waves. They were too small and too numerous for the Therian point defense systems to track. They swarmed over cruisers and destroyers, firing missiles at close range, cutting through armor with cutting lasers, jamming sensors. The Catharian fleet descended into chaos. Captain Krax aboard the Crimson Blade watched his ship's systems fail one by one. His shields were down to 20%. His weapons were offline. Drones covered his hull like parasites. He opened an emergency channel to any ship that could hear him. All ships fall back. We need to regroup. We cannot fight like this. But the Catharian fleet could not regroup. They could barely communicate. Rivera saw his opening. Commander Park, fire missile volley Alpha. Target the 3 ships currently maneuvering to flank us. The Titan launched 200 nuclear missiles. Each one had an AI guidance system that could adapt to countermeasures. The Catharians had abandoned nuclear weapons centuries ago, considering them barbaric. They had forgotten how to defend against them. The missiles wove through space, avoiding point defense fire, adapting their approach vectors in real time. The first missile hit a Catharian cruiser amidships. The nuclear explosion was silent in the vacuum of space, but the flash of light was blinding. The cruiser's shields collapsed. Its hull buckled and tore. Secondary explosions ripped through the ship as fuel and ammunition detonated. 2 more ships died in quick succession. The Catharian fleet was no longer attacking. They were trying to survive. Ships broke formation, running for safety. Some tried to jump to faster than light speeds, only to find that the Titan's jamming blocked their navigation systems. On the Imperial Fist, Corvin finally understood what was happening. The humans had not brought a warship. They had brought a nightmare. They fought with weapons the Catharians had forgotten. They fought with tactics that exploited every weakness in ships designed to fight energy battles. They fought like cornered animals with nothing to lose. Rivera watched the tactical display. The Catharian fleet was in full retreat. In 47 minutes, the Titan had disabled or destroyed 43 of 50 ships. The remaining 7 were fleeing at maximum speed. He could destroy them easily, but that was not the mission. The mission was to send a message: cease fire, let them go, all hands secure from battle stations. Commander Hayes, send a wideband transmission to the council station. The channel opened. Rivera's voice reached every ship, every station, every listening post within light years. This is Captain James Rivera of the United Nations Starship Titan. We came in peace. We asked only for respect and fair treatment. We were threatened. We were given an ultimatum. We were told to surrender or die. So we have delivered our answer. He paused, letting his words sink in. Earth's military doctrine is simple. We prepare for enemies we hope never to meet. We never stop innovating. We never stop adapting. And we never surrender our freedom. This is one ship. We have more being built. Test us again and you will see all of them. It was a bluff. There were no other Titan-class ships. But the Catharians did not know that. To them, facing one more ship like this would be unthinkable. Facing a fleet of them would be suicide. The Titan moved slowly toward the council station. No ships moved to intercept it. The station's weapons remained silent. Rivera brought his ship to a stop directly in front of the main docking bay. It was a position of complete dominance. The Titan hung there like a sword over the throat of the council. Ambassador Chen stood up. She adjusted her uniform and took a deep breath. "Captain, I believe it is time to deliver our response in person." Rivera nodded. "Lieutenant Webb, assemble an honor guard. Full dress uniforms. We walk into that council chamber with our heads high. We just taught the galaxy a lesson. Let them see what victory looks like." In the council chamber, silence reigned. The council members stared at the displays showing the wrecked Catharian fleet. First Minister Draka sat down heavily, his face pale beneath his scales. "This is impossible. One ship cannot defeat our fleet." "This is impossible," a Vryn council member spoke softly. "Clearly it is not impossible. We have just witnessed it. The humans fought with weapons we abandoned, tactics we forgot, and determination we underestimated." A Zexian representative clicked its mandibles nervously. "The economic implications are staggering. If other species see this, if they realize the Catharian military can be defeated, the entire galactic order will collapse. 47 conquered species will demand freedom. Trade routes will be disrupted." "This is a disaster." Shrenka watched from the shadows. Tears ran down her face. Not tears of sadness. Tears of joy. For the first time in 4,000 years, someone had stood up to the Catharians and won. Someone had proven that the Empire could be beaten. She wanted to cheer. She wanted to run through the station telling everyone what had happened. Instead, she stayed silent and watched. The airlock opened. Ambassador Chen walked out, flanked by Lieutenant Webb and 6 Marines in dress uniforms. They marched through the corridors with confidence. Aliens pressed against the walls to let them pass. Some looked at them with fear. Some looked at them with awe. Some looked at them with hope. The doors to the council chamber opened. Chen walked in. The council members fell silent. She walked to the center of the chamber and looked up at them. When she spoke, her voice carried to every corner of the vast room. "Honored council members, I have returned to deliver Earth's formal response to your ultimatum. That response is as follows. We decline. We propose instead a mutual non-aggression treaty. Earth will respect the sovereignty of all galactic nations. We ask only that you respect ours. We seek trade, cooperation, and peaceful relations. But we will not be conquered. We will not be enslaved. And we will not be threatened." First Minister Draka stood up. His voice shook with rage. "You have attacked the Imperial fleet. You have violated our space. You will pay for this aggression." Chen smiled coldly. "We attacked only after being fired upon. We violated no space that we were not invited to. And as for payment, we are prepared to pay. The question is whether you are prepared for the cost of collecting." The chamber erupted in argument. Catharians demanded retaliation. Zexians calculated costs. Vryn spoke of wisdom and caution. Chen stood in the center of it all, calm and unmoved. She had delivered her message. She had shown them humanity would not bow. What happened next was up to them. The galaxy had just learned an important lesson. There was a new power rising. A species that fought with forgotten weapons and unbroken spirit. A species that would rather die fighting than live in chains. The balance of power had shifted, and nothing would ever be the same again. The council chamber descended into chaos. Therian representatives shouted demands for immediate retaliation. Zexian representatives calculated the economic impact of a prolonged war. Vryn representatives tried to call for calm and reason, but everyone understood that something fundamental had changed. The balance of power that had held for thousands of years was broken. Ambassador Chen stood in the center of the storm. She did not flinch. She did not retreat. She simply waited for the council to remember they were supposed to be civilized. Finally, the presiding officer, an ancient Vryn named Keeper Tolis, raised his hands. Silence gradually fell. "Ambassador Chen," Keeper Tolis spoke in a soft voice that somehow carried through the vast chamber. "You have demonstrated that humanity possesses advanced military capabilities. You have proven that the Catharian fleet is not invincible, but you have also killed thousands of soldiers. You have attacked ships that served the Council for centuries. How do you justify this action?" Chen looked up at him. "We fired only after being fired upon. We disabled ships rather than destroying them whenever possible. We allowed survivors to retreat. We acted in self-defense, nothing more. The Catharian fleet came to conquer. We came to negotiate. Who is truly at fault here?" First Minister Draka slammed his clawed hand on his console. "Self-defense. You destroyed our ships. You humiliated our fleet. This act of war cannot stand. A Zexian representative spoke up. His voice was calculating. Minister Draka, perhaps we should consider the practical implications. The humans defeated 50 ships with one vessel. If they truly have more ships as they claim, a war would be extremely costly. Our trade networks would suffer. Perhaps negotiation is the wiser course. Draka turned his fury on the Zexian. You speak of cost? What of honor? What of strength? If we back down now, every conquered species will see it as weakness. They will rebel. Our empire will crumble. Chen spoke again. Her voice was calm but hard. Perhaps your empire should crumble. You built it on the backs of 47 conquered peoples. You call it order, but it is slavery. You call it protection, but it is oppression. The galaxy deserves better. Humanity will help provide it. The chamber erupted again. This time new voices joined the chaos. Representatives of minor species, those who had been silent for centuries, began to speak. They had been watching from the edges of the chamber, unimportant and unheard. Now they saw an opportunity. A delegate from the Talon people stood up. His species had been conquered 200 years ago. His voice shook with emotion. Ambassador Chen speaks truth. We have lived under Ktharian rule for 2 centuries. We were told it was for our own good. We were told we needed guidance. We were lied to. We want freedom. If humanity will stand against the Ktharians, the Talon will stand with them. Another delegate stood, then another. Representatives from species that had been silent for generations found their voices. They spoke of injustice. They spoke of stolen resources. They spoke of dreams crushed under the weight of Ktharian rule. The council chamber had become a court, and the Ktharian Empire stood accused. Shrenka watched from her hiding place. She was crying and smiling at the same time. This was what she had hoped for. This was what she had dreamed of for 4,000 years. Someone had finally shown the galaxy that resistance was possible. Someone had finally lit the spark of rebellion. Keeper Tolis raised his hands again. The chamber slowly quieted. This session is suspended. The council will meet in private session to discuss these matters. Ambassador Chen, you and your ship will remain at the station. You will not be harmed. We promise this on the authority of the council. Chen nodded. We will remain for 7 days, no longer. At the end of that time, we return to Earth with or without an agreement. Choose wisely, council members. The galaxy is watching. She turned and walked out of the chamber. Her honor guard followed. They returned to the Titan, where Captain Rivera and his crew waited anxiously. Rivera met her at the airlock. How did it go? Chen smiled. It went well. The council is divided. The Ktharians want revenge, but they are scared. The Zexians want to avoid economic disruption. The Vrinari caught between their philosophy and the reality of power. And best of all, the minor species are speaking up. We have started something bigger than just defending Earth. The next 7 days were tense. The Titan remained on full alert. Sensors tracked every ship that came near. The crew slept in shifts and ate at their stations. But no attack came. Instead, something unexpected happened. Ships began arriving at the station. Small vessels from minor species across the galaxy. They came under various pretexts: trade missions, cultural exchanges, routine visits. But everyone knew the real reason. They came to see the human ship. They came to see the species that had defeated the Ktharian fleet. They came to find hope. On the 3rd day, a small ship requested permission to dock with the Titan. Captain Rivera was suspicious at first, but when he saw who was aboard, he allowed it. Shrenka stepped through the airlock. Ambassador Chen met her personally. Thank you for warning me about the Ktharian plan. We owe you our lives. Shrenka shook her head. You owe me nothing. You did what my people could not do. You stood and fought. I came to tell you what is happening in the council. The debate is fierce. The Ktharians demand war, but they are afraid of losing. The Zexians calculate profits and losses. The Vrin are paralyzed by philosophy. But something else is happening too. What? 14 minor species have formally protested their subjugation status. They are demanding reviews of their treaties with the Ktharians. 3 species are threatening to cut off resource exports. 1 species, the Talon, has begun building a military fleet. The galaxy is waking up, Ambassador. You have shown them what is possible. Chen felt a weight settle on her shoulders. She had known their actions would have consequences, but hearing it laid out so clearly was overwhelming. We did not come here to start a revolution. Shrenka smiled sadly. But you did anyway. Sometimes the universe needs a revolution. Sometimes order becomes oppression. Someone has to be brave enough to say no. You were brave. Now others will follow your example. On the 5th day, representatives from 12 minor species requested a meeting with Ambassador Chen. They met in a conference room on the station, not in the official council chambers. These were species that had never been allowed to speak in the grand debates. They were the conquered, the oppressed, the forgotten. A Talon elder spoke first. His name was Kelvin, and his people had been warriors before the Catharians crushed them. Ambassador Chen, we have a proposal. We wish to form an alliance with Earth, a mutual defense pact. If the Catharians attack you, we will fight beside you. If they attack us, we hope you will do the same. Others nodded. More voices joined in. They spoke of shared resources, combined fleets, technology exchange. They spoke of building a new order in the galaxy, one based on cooperation instead of conquest. Chen listened to them all. When they finished, she spoke carefully. What you propose is ambitious. It is dangerous. The Catharians will not accept it peacefully. You could all be destroyed for daring to challenge them. Are you prepared for that? Kelvin stood up. His eyes were bright with determination. We have lived as slaves for centuries. We have survived, but we have not lived. You showed us that survival is not enough. Freedom is worth the risk. Yes, Ambassador. We are prepared. Chen looked at each face around the table. She saw hope. She saw fear. She saw courage. She thought about what this meant for Earth. They had come to the council seeking only to protect their own world. Now they were being asked to lead a galactic revolution. It was more than they had bargained for. But it was also right. I cannot give you an answer on behalf of Earth's government, but I can tell you what I believe. Humanity has learned hard lessons about tyranny. We fought wars to end slavery. We built democracies from the ashes of dictatorships. We understand what you are feeling. When I return to Earth, I will recommend that we accept your proposal. I believe my government will agree. The representatives stood and bowed. It was a gesture of respect and hope. They left the meeting quietly, but Chen could feel the change in the air. The galaxy was shifting beneath their feet. On the 7th day, the council called Ambassador Chen to return. She entered the chamber with Captain Rivera and Lieutenant Webb. The council members looked tired. The debate had clearly been long and difficult. Keeper Tola spoke. Ambassador Chen, the council has reached a decision. It was not unanimous. It was not easy. But it is final. The council hereby withdraws the ultimatum against Earth. Your sovereignty is recognized. Your right to self-defense is acknowledged. The Catharian Empire is ordered to cease all hostile actions toward humanity. Chen felt relief wash over her. But she kept her expression neutral. And the price for this recognition? Keeper Tolis looked uncomfortable. There is no price. However, the Council requests that Earth agree to certain conditions. You will not expand your military beyond defensive needs. You will not share your weapons technology with other species without Council approval. You will respect existing territorial boundaries. Chen smiled. She had expected this. They wanted to contain humanity, to prevent them from becoming a threat to the established order. We will consider your requests. But I want to be clear. Earth will defend itself however it sees fit. We will form alliances with whoever we choose. We will share technology with our friends. You may not dictate our foreign policy. The age of empires telling others how to live is ending. You can accept that gracefully or you can fight it and lose. The choice is yours. First Minister Draka stood up. His voice was full of barely controlled rage. You dare threaten the Council? One battle does not make you our equals. We have fleets across the galaxy. We have resources beyond counting. We can crush you if we choose. Chen looked at him calmly. You had 50 ships. They could not defeat one of ours. How many more ships are you willing to lose? How many more defeats can your empire survive before the species you conquered rise up? You are not as strong as you think, Minister. Your power rests on fear. We have broken that fear. It cannot be restored. The truth of her words hung in the air. Draka knew it. Everyone knew it. The Catharian Empire's greatest weapon had been the belief that they were invincible. That belief was shattered. It could never be made whole again. A Vryn council member, a female named Keeper Marana, spoke up. Her voice was thoughtful. Perhaps we have been clinging to the past for too long. The galaxy changes. Powers rise and fall. New ideas replace old ones. Maybe it is time for the council to change as well. I propose we invite Earth to join the council as a full member. I also propose we review the status of all conquered species. Let us see if we can build a new order based on cooperation rather than domination. The chamber erupted again. But this time more voices supported the idea than opposed it. The minor species representatives cheered. Even some Zexians nodded in agreement. Only the Ctharians stood firm in opposition. But they were no longer the dominant voice. The vote was taken. Earth was invited to join the Galactic Council. Reviews of subjugation treaties were authorized. Reforms were proposed. It would take years to implement all the changes. There would be resistance. There would be setbacks. But the process had begun. Chen and her team returned to the Titan. As they walked through the corridors, crew members lined the walls. They did not cheer. That would not be proper military discipline, but they stood at attention with pride in their eyes. They had done something incredible. They had changed the galaxy. On the bridge, Captain Rivera prepared the ship for departure. Navigation, set course for Earth, maximum speed. Let us go home. The Titan pulled away from the station. Behind them, the Council continued to debate. Minor species began forming alliances. The Ctharian fleet licked its wounds and tried to understand what had happened. The Zexians calculated new trade routes for a changing market. The Vryn contemplated the philosophy of power and justice. Chen stood at the observation window watching the stars. Lieutenant Webb joined her. He looked thoughtful. Ambassador, do you think this will really change anything? The Council made promises, but will they keep them? Chen smiled. Change is never easy. There will be resistance. The Ctharians will try to hold on to their power. But the seed is planted. Minor species have seen that resistance is possible. They have allies now. They have hope. That is worth more than any treaty. The journey home took 3 weeks. During that time, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. Some reports were accurate. Many were exaggerated. But all of them carried the same basic message. Humanity had stood up to the Ctharian Empire and won. 1 ship against 50, 1 species refusing to bow. On Earth, the news was met with celebration and concern. People were proud of what the Titan had accomplished. But they also understood that humanity had made powerful enemies. The Ctharians would not forget this humiliation. There would be consequences. When the Titan finally approached Earth, it was met by a fleet of escort ships. They formed an honor guard around the warship. Messages poured in from around the solar system. Congratulations, thanks. Pride, relief. The Titan docked at Mars Fleet Command, and the crew received a hero's welcome. Admiral Okonkwo met Ambassador Chen and Captain Rivera personally. She did not smile often, but she smiled now. Well done, both of you. You have made Earth proud. You have also made us a lot of new friends and a few very serious enemies. Come, the government wants a full briefing. We have much to discuss. The briefing lasted for hours. Chen told them everything. The battle, the Council's reaction, the minor species forming alliances, the invitation to join the Council, the reforms that had been promised. When she finished, the room was silent. Secretary General Martinez spoke first. You went to deliver an ultimatum response. Instead, you started a revolution. I'm not sure whether to promote you or court-martial you. Chen smiled. I recommend promotion. It comes with better benefits. The room laughed. The tension broke. They began planning for the future. Earth would accept the council seat. They would form alliances with the minor species. They would build more ships. Not to conquer, but to defend. Not to oppress, but to protect. The galaxy was changing, and humanity would help shape that change. The meeting ended late at night. Chen walked out into the Mars dome and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Shrenka was watching those same stars. Somewhere out there, the Talon were building their fleet. Somewhere out there, conquered species were dreaming of freedom. And somewhere out there, the Therians were plotting revenge. The galaxy's balance was broken. Nothing would ever be the same. And that was exactly what needed to happen. 6 months after the Battle of Council Station, as historians were now calling it, the galaxy looked very different. Ambassador Chen stood in the New Earth Embassy on the Council Station, watching ships come and go through the docking bays. There were more ships than ever before. More trade, more meetings, more conversation. The galaxy was waking up after centuries of sleep. Lieutenant Webb, now promoted to commander, entered her office with a data pad. His expression was serious but satisfied. Ambassador, the latest reports from the Intelligence Division. 17 minor species have formally declared independence from Catharian control. The Empire has protested but taken no military action. 8 species have signed mutual defense treaties with Earth. Trade agreements with the Zexian Consortium have increased by 300%. Chen took the pad and read through the details. It was remarkable progress in just 6 months. But she knew it was also fragile. The Catharians had not accepted their loss gracefully. They were regrouping, rebuilding, planning. And what about our own fleet? Webb smiled. Construction on 3 new Titan-class warships is proceeding on schedule. Admiral Okonkwo expects the UNSS Liberty to be operational in 4 months. The UNSS Freedom and UNSS Justice will follow at 2-month intervals. Additionally, we have begun sharing some defensive technologies with our allies. The Talon have launched their first modern warship. Others will follow. The intercom buzzed. A voice spoke in the melodic tones of a Vrin. Ambassador Chen, Keeper Shrenka requests a meeting. She says it is urgent. Chen felt concern. Shrenka had become an unofficial advisor to Earth's delegation. She understood galactic politics better than anyone, but she rarely asked for urgent meetings. Send her in. Shrenka entered quickly. Her normally calm expression showed worry. Ambassador, I bring warning. The Catharian military is preparing a major operation. My contacts within the Empire report that Grand Admiral Corvin is gathering a new fleet. Not 50 ships this time. 200 ships. They plan to strike at Earth directly. Chen felt her stomach tighten. When? 3 months. Maybe less. They are retrofitting their shields to better defend against kinetic weapons. They are developing countermeasures for your cyber warfare capabilities. They are training for the kind of battle you taught them to expect. They are taking you seriously now, Ambassador. That makes them more dangerous. Chen immediately activated the secure communication system. She needed to inform Earth. But Shrenka stopped her with a gentle hand on her arm. Wait. There is more. The Catharians are not the only ones making moves. The Zexian Consortium has been quietly building a defense fleet, not to attack, but to protect their trade routes from potential conflict. The Vrin Collective is divided. Many of my people want to help you, but others fear angering the Catharians, and the minor species are watching carefully. If you can defeat this new fleet, more will join your alliance. If you fall, the revolution will die. Chen understood. This was the test. The Titans' victory had been impressive, but many still believed it was luck or a fluke. If Earth could stand against a fleet 10 times larger, properly prepared for human tactics, then the galaxy would truly change. If Earth fell, everything would return to how it was. No pressure, she contacted Earth immediately. The message traveled at faster than light speeds, arriving within hours. The response came the next day. Secretary General Martinez appeared on the screen. Her face was determined. We received your report, Ambassador. The government is unanimous. We will not back down. We will not negotiate. If the Catharians want war, we will give them war. Admiral Okonkwo is accelerating construction on the new Titans. We will have all 3 operational before the Catharian fleet arrives. Additionally, we are requesting military support from our allies. The Talon have already pledged their fleet. Others are considering. Chen nodded. And Captain Rivera? Captain Rivera has been promoted to Commodore. He will command the defense of Earth. The Titan, Liberty, Freedom, and Justice will form the core of our fleet. We are also building smaller ships, destroyers and cruisers using hybrid human and alien technology. We will not face this threat alone or unprepared. Over the next 3 months, the solar system became a fortress. Ship construction worked around the clock. Mars Fleet Command expanded to 3 times its original size. The asteroid belt was mined for resources. Every human station and habitat contributed to the war effort. But it was not just humans working. Talon engineers helped improve shield technology. Zexian merchants provided rare materials. Even some Vrin arrived, offering tactical advice and intelligence about Catharian strategies. Commodore Rivera stood on the bridge of the Titan, now the flagship of Earth's defense fleet. Around his ship, 3 more Titans floated in formation. The Liberty, Freedom, and Justice were identical to the original in design, but incorporated lessons learned from the first battle. They were faster, better armed, and their crews were trained to perfection. Beyond them, 30 smaller human warships took up positions, and beyond those, 15 Talon ships added their strength to the defense. Rivera looked at his tactical display. It showed not just the human ships, but defensive stations throughout the solar system, missile platforms, railgun batteries, fighter squadrons, mines hidden in the asteroid belt. If the Catharians wanted Earth, they would have to pay for every kilometer of space. Lieutenant Commander Park, now promoted to full commander, stood at her weapon station. Sir, all systems optimal. The new railguns have twice the rate of fire of the original systems. Missile loadouts are full. Drone bays are at capacity. We are ready. The Catharian fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 200 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They formed into a massive wall of metal and firepower. At their center was the Imperial Vengeance, Grand Admiral Corvin's new flagship. It was twice the size of his previous ship, bristling with weapons covered in layers of armor. Corvin stood on his bridge and looked at the display showing Earth's defensive positions. He saw the 4 Titans. He saw the smaller ships. He saw the defensive stations. He smiled. The humans had been busy, but 200 ships against less than 50. The numbers were in his favor. This time would be different. He opened a channel. Commodore Rivera of Earth, you have 2 options. Surrender now and your people will be treated mercifully. Resist and we will destroy every ship you have. Every station in your system, every settlement on your worlds. Choose wisely. Rivera appeared on his screen. He looked calm. Admiral Corvin, we gave you our answer 6 months ago. Nothing has changed. Earth will not surrender. Come and try to take us. You will find we have prepared a warm welcome. The channel closed. Corvin gave the order. All ships advance. Destroy them. The Catharian fleet moved forward in careful formation. They had learned from the first battle. They spread out to avoid concentrated fire. They kept their shields configured to resist kinetic weapons. They maintained tight communication security to prevent hacking. They came like a tidal wave, slow but unstoppable. Rivera watched them come. Wait for it. Let them enter the asteroid belt. Let them commit. The Catharian fleet pushed into the belt, confident in their numbers. That was when the trap sprung. Hidden mines activated. Thousands of them, spread throughout the asteroids. They were not powerful enough to destroy ships, but they did not need to be. They disrupted shields. They damaged sensors. They forced the fleet to slow down and bunch together to help damaged vessels. Rivera gave the signal. All ships engage. Fire at will. The 4 Titans opened fire simultaneously. 160 railguns sent tungsten rods screaming through space. The Catharians had prepared their shields, but 4 times the firepower of the original battle was too much. Ships buckled under the bombardment. Missiles followed, thousands of them, each one smarter and deadlier than before. The Catharian point defenses shot down many, but not all. Nuclear explosions blossomed across their formation. The smaller human ships and the Talon fleet flanked the Catharian formation. They did not have the firepower of the Titans, but they did not need it. They targeted damaged ships, communication relays, command vessels. They moved fast, hit hard, and disappeared into the asteroid field before the Catharians could respond effectively. The battle lasted 4 hours. It was brutal and desperate. The Catharians fought with skill and courage. They destroyed 20 human ships and 5 Talon vessels. They damaged the Justice badly enough that it had to withdraw. But in the end, numbers were not enough. Technology was not enough. The Catharians were fighting in humanity's home system, against an enemy defending everything they loved. That made all the difference. When it was over, 140 Catharian ships were destroyed or disabled. 60 retreated back to faster-than-light speeds, fleeing the system. Grand Admiral Corvin was among the dead. His flagship had been hit by a salvo from 3 Titans simultaneously. It had simply ceased to exist. Rivera stood on his bridge looking at the aftermath on his screens. Wreckage floated through the asteroid belt. Rescue operations were already underway for survivors on both sides. Human and Catharian alike would be saved, would be treated, would be returned home. That was the human way. Even in victory, there was mercy. The news spread across the galaxy within days. Earth had defeated the Catharian Empire again. Not 1 ship against 50, but 45 ships against 200. The impossible had happened twice. The empire that had ruled for 3,000 years had been broken by a species that had reached the stars only 2 decades ago. The consequences were immediate and dramatic. Within a week, 32 minor species declared independence from Catharian rule. The empire's borders shrank by 1/3. Internal dissent grew among the Catharians themselves. Some called for peace. Others demanded vengeance. The empire that had seemed eternal was tearing itself apart. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. Ambassador Chen attended. along with representatives from the newly independent species. The chamber was packed. The Ctharian delegation was notably smaller. They no longer sat at the highest positions. Instead, they shared the floor with everyone else. Keeper Tolas called the session to order. His ancient face showed both sadness and hope. The galaxy stands at a crossroads. The old order has fallen. We must build a new one. The question is what kind of order we wish to create. Will it be based on conquest and fear? Or will it be based on cooperation and respect? Chen stood to speak. She looked around the chamber at faces of 100 different species. We have a choice to make. Humanity did not seek war. We sought only to defend ourselves and help others do the same. We have proven that the strong do not have to prey on the weak. We have shown that unity is stronger than domination. I propose a new galactic charter, one that guarantees sovereignty for all species, one that forbids conquest and slavery, one that promotes trade, cooperation, and mutual defense. Not an empire, not a hegemony, but a true community of free peoples. The Tharian representative, a young officer named Theron who had replaced the dead First Minister Draka, stood up. His voice was quiet. My people have ruled for 3,000 years. We believed our way was the only way. We were wrong. The cost of that error has been high. We have lost ships, soldiers, territory, and honor. But perhaps we have gained something more valuable. Wisdom. The Ctharian Empire votes in favor of Ambassador Chen's proposal. The chamber erupted in surprise. The Catharians, who had resisted every reform, who had clung to their power, were surrendering. Not on the battlefield, but in the council. It was a complete transformation. The vote was taken. The new galactic charter passed with overwhelming support. It would take time to implement. Treaties would need to be written. Borders would need to be redrawn. Resources would need to be redistributed. But the principle was established. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun. 3 months later, Ambassador Chen stood in her office on the council station. She was packing her belongings. Her term as ambassador was ending. Earth had appointed a new representative, someone better suited to the diplomatic work of peace. Chen was a warrior who had fought when fighting was necessary. Now it was time for builders. Shrenka came to say goodbye. They had become friends over the past year. The Vryn looked at Chen with tears in her large eyes. You changed everything. When you arrived, I saw just another young species about to be crushed. Now I see the beginning of something beautiful, a galaxy where might does not make right, where small species can stand equal to large ones, where freedom is protected, not punished. Chen smiled. We only started it. The real work is just beginning. Building peace is harder than winning wars, but I believe the galaxy is ready. I believe you are ready. What will you do now? Shrenka asked. Chen looked out the window at the stars. Earth has appointed me as the first Minister of Galactic Affairs. I will work with our new allies, help them build their defenses, share our technology, create trade agreements, the usual diplomatic work. But I will also keep watch. The Catharians have accepted defeat gracefully, but there may be others who see an opportunity in the chaos. The galaxy is changing, and change always brings danger along with opportunity. Back on Earth, in the shipyards of Mars Fleet Command, Admiral Okonkwo watched as construction began on 5 more Titan-class warships. She also oversaw the building of a new class of vessel, smaller than the Titans but faster and more versatile, the Defender class. These would be offered to allied species, helping them build their own defenses. A young officer approached her. His name was Lieutenant Thomas Parker, fresh from the academy. He looked at the massive construction projects with awe. Admiral, why are we building so many ships? The Catharians are defeated. The galaxy is at peace. Okonkwo turned to him. Her expression was serious. Lieutenant, do you know why humanity survived the water wars? Why we survived the resource crisis? Why we survived first contact with hostile aliens? Parker shook his head. No, Admiral. Because we never stopped preparing for the worst. Because we never assumed peace would last forever. Because we understood that freedom has a price, and that price is eternal vigilance. The Ctharians are defeated, yes, but they are not the only threat in the galaxy. There are empires we have not met yet. There are dangers we have not imagined. We build these ships not because we want war, but because we never want to be helpless again. The young officer nodded slowly, understanding. She watched him walk away, then turned back to the construction. The Titans rose against the stars, monuments to human determination. But they were also promises. Promises to defend, promises to protect, promises to never bow. On the edges of the galaxy, in systems humanity had not yet explored, there were indeed other powers. Ancient civilizations that made the Ctharians look young, mysterious entities that existed beyond normal space, threats that would make the Battle of Council Station look like a small skirmish. But those challenges were for another day. For now, humanity and its allies celebrated their victory and built their new order. On the Council Station, the new galactic charter was signed by representatives of 87 species. It was a historic moment. Species that had been enemies for generations now worked together. Species that had been slaves now stood free. The document was not perfect. There would be arguments. There would be setbacks, but it was a beginning. Commander Webb stood beside Ambassador Chen as the signatures were added. He looked at the gathering with satisfaction. "We did it, Ambassador. We actually did it," Chen smiled. "We started it, Commander. The real work begins now. Building is always harder than breaking. Cooperation is always harder than conquest. But I believe we are up to the challenge." Years later, historians would look back on this period and call it the Great Transformation. They would study how one species, arriving late to galactic civilization, had changed everything. They would debate whether humanity's aggressive response to the Ctharian ultimatum had been wise or reckless. They would analyze the battles, the diplomacy, the alliances, but they would all agree on one thing. The galaxy had needed to change. The old order of empires and conquest had become stagnant and cruel. Someone needed to break it. Humanity had been dangerous enough, desperate enough, and brave enough to do what needed to be done. They had sent diplomats when diplomacy was appropriate. But when threatened, they had sent their Titan. And the galaxy's balance had broken forever. On Earth, in a small apartment in Geneva, an old man sat in his chair and watched the news broadcast from across the galaxy. Marcus Wells, the former Secretary General who had secretly funded the Titan initiative, smiled. He had been called paranoid. He had been called warmonger. He had been accused of wasting resources on unnecessary weapons, but he had been right. And now humanity was free. Now their allies were free. Now the galaxy was changing for the better. He raised a glass of wine to the stars visible through his window. To paranoia, to preparation, to the warriors who fought so others could live in peace. In orbit above Earth, the Titan hung in space. Its hull was scarred from 2 major battles. Its armor was pitted and burned. But it was home, back where it belonged, watching over the world that built it. On the bridge, a skeleton crew kept watch. Captain Rivera, now promoted to admiral, stood at the viewport and looked down at the blue planet below. A young ensign approached him nervously. "Admiral, permission to ask a question?" Rivera smiled. "Granted. Were you scared? During the battles, facing impossible odds?" Rivera turned to look at the young officer. His expression was serious, terrified every moment. "I thought we might die. I thought Earth might fall. I thought everything we loved might be destroyed. But I was more scared of not fighting, more scared of surrendering without resistance, more scared of living as a slave than dying as a free man." "Fear is not the problem, Ensign. The problem is letting fear control you." The ensign nodded, understanding. He returned to his station. Rivera looked back at Earth. Somewhere down there, children were being born who would never know a time when humanity was not respected among the stars. They would grow up in a galaxy where freedom was the norm, not the exception, where cooperation was valued over conquest, where might did not make right. That was worth fighting for. That was worth everything they had risked. The Ctharians had called humanity dangerous children playing with weapons they did not understand. They had been right about the dangerous part, but they had been wrong about everything else. Humanity understood weapons very well. They understood violence. They understood war. They had lived it, studied it, perfected it over thousands of years of bloody history. That was why they chose peace. Because they knew the alternative. Because they had counted the cost. Because they understood that violence was a tool, not a solution, a last resort, not a first choice. But when threatened, when pushed, when given no other option, humanity would fight with everything they had. They would innovate. They would adapt. They would win, or they would die trying. The galaxy had learned that lesson, the hard way. Now a new era was beginning, an era of cooperation and growth, an era where small species could stand beside large ones as equals. An era where freedom was protected and tyranny was challenged. It would not be perfect. There would be conflicts. There would be disagreements. There would be new threats, but humanity and its allies would be ready. Because they had learned another important lesson. Freedom is not given. It is not granted. It is taken and defended. Every generation must fight for it in their own way. Sometimes with words and diplomacy. Sometimes with ships and weapons. But always with courage and determination. The aliens had sent diplomats expecting surrender. Earth had sent its Titan. And the galaxy's balance had broken. Not destroyed, but transformed. Not ended, but reborn. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And at the heart of it all, standing guard over freedom, watching for new threats, preparing for whatever came next, was humanity. Dangerous, innovative, unstoppable humanity. The stars shone down on Earth, on Mars, on the scattered colonies and stations of human civilization. They shone on the council station where representatives of 100 species worked together. They shone on the battlefields where ships had clashed and warriors had died. They shone on the future, bright and uncertain, full of promise and danger. And somewhere on a distant world, a young alien child looked up at those same stars and dreamed of freedom. Dreamed of a galaxy where size and strength did not determine worth. Dreamed of standing equal among the great powers. That child did not know it yet. But because of Earth's courage, because of the Titan's guns, because of one species' refusal to bow, that dream was now possible. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what it needed.